my KTM 350 has been flaming out. I bought the TPS tool. The TPS tool is a little bit pricey, but you know, I figure some of my buddies can use it, and I'm sure I'll be using it on future KTMs or other bikes as well. And one thing I have to say about this entire process is online you see a lot of forums where people do this all the time. There's a lot of people who say, oh, don't ever touch it, or it's so hard to do. And actually, I found, in my case, the hardest part of this whole process was right here, getting this boot off of my TPS itself. The TPS has rubber boot on it. To me, this was the hardest part of this whole process. And just like that, the boot's off. So that, to me, that was the hardest part of this process. It's actually very easy, and I think if you have the proper tools and you follow the instructions, it's not very scary at all. So once you have the TPS on covered, then you just disconnect the clip. That's a clip coming from your engine to the actual TPS. And what the TPS is, in case you're not familiar with it, the TPS is kind of like a volume control. If you're familiar with basic electronics, you know volume control. At a low volume, it's sending less voltage out. You turn the volume up, it sends more voltage out. That's basically what the TPS does. When your throttle is closed, it's sending a small voltage out. When you crack the throttle and open it, it sends more voltage out. It's actually, you know, acting like a volume control, you know, essentially in my mind. The thing about the TPS though is the voltages are so fine. If you'll see coming up here, you'll just touch it and the voltages jump a lot. So it's that's the only part that's a little bit tricky. And again, it's not even that bad. You just got to be very, very patient with it. So anyway, you unhook the TPS, and so you look at it, you see the end of it. That's the kind of pigtail you're going to look for in all the pigtails I sent you. If you're not sure, you can check the website too. And here I have the matching pigtail. And this you hook this pigtail you hook up to the TPS, not to the bike. You hook it right into your TPS. The TPS tool you have has a battery in it, and it's going to be sending a voltage to the TPS, and that's how you're going to adjust it. You don't have to turn the ignition on. You don't have to you don't have to bump the start button or anything like that when you have the TPS tool. So once you have the pigtail hooked up to your TPS, look on your instructions. It'll show you which colored wires go where on your TPS tool. And when you have that properly attached, now it's time to turn the unit on. You turn it on, it'll immediately tell you where your TPS is set. Right there. Mine was set at 0.574. That's 0.574. Came from the factory that way. Every bike apparently is going to be a little bit different. You're going to be in that range. You're going to be somewhere around 0.574. Why is it different? I don't know. I'm assuming maybe they tune them when they leave the factory, and I don't know. Now, if you go online, you'll see all different settings out there. It seems like a lot of people are having good luck with 0.640. So what I try to do is I try to get it to 0.640. What you do is you take a T20 hex, or T20 star, whatever you want to call it. My TPS sensor only has one bolt on it. Some of them have two. One thing I've seen is a lot of people just go in and they take that bolt right out. And then what happens is the TPS is free to basically just flop around. And that's where I think a lot of trouble happens. So what I recommend doing, instead of removing that bolt, just loosen it a little bit, just so that it's tight enough that it's going to take a fair amount of effort to move the TPS around. If you do that, I think your adjustment is a lot easier. If you go ahead and just remove this bolt, the TPS is going to move so much it's going to take a lot to try to get it exact. Because again, every tiny little movement is going to change the voltage. So what I've done is I've loosened it just a little bit. I put my finger on it, and it's taking a fair amount of force to move it because I did not loosen that bolt the whole way. I've loosened it just enough so that I have to push on it pretty hard to change the voltage. So now what you do is you move the TPS around. I mean, you can see the voltage changing. The movements I'm making, you can't even see the movements with the naked eye. That's how fine of adjustment this is. So basically you get it where you want to. What I found is I couldn't set it right at 0.64 and then tighten it, because when I tightened it, just the act of tightening it was changing the voltage. So I got it pretty close, and then I tightened it down. And you can see it just to barely touch it and it changes. So there I have it at 0.6401. Tighten it. And you'll see when I touch it with the wrench, it changes just ever so slightly. And there you go, 0.6401. So that's it. Next thing, just turn off the unit, unplug the pigtail from your TPS, plug the wire from your bike back into your TPS, get the boot on, and okay, actually I think getting the boot on was probably the hardest. That's harder than taking it off, but so that's it. It's done. All I got to do now is get this stupid boot on, and you can see this is not hard at all. It's not. I don't find it to be scary at all. I think there's a lot of posts out there that, again, I think the reason people think this is so scary is they don't have the proper tool, and they don't document their initial TPS setting. And if you don't document your initial TPS setting, God help you, you're going to be just in the dark. You can see how much fine tuning is, how fine the adjustments are. But that's it. So after that, you just fire up the bike, do whatever you want. You're done. And it is a very easy adjustment to do. I put mine at 0.640, and I found it reduced my Flameout by about 60%. And I do have another video that shows other things I did. I eventually was able to completely eliminate the Flameout on my bike, and I have another video that you can check out if you want to see more steps. But that's basically the TPS tool and how it works. Again, I found it to be very easy with the right tool. And again, the tool is a little bit pricey, but I figure I'll always have it, and I can lend it to my buddies and other folks who need to use it too. So the TPS tool, when you get it, it looks like this. It's all the connectors. They send you so many different pigtails for it. That's great. You can go right on their website, and it'll tell you exactly which pigtails fit which models. They also give you some paper instructions too, but the website has a lot of information on it. Just about anything you ever want to know is on there. And also, I feel like an advantage to this too is the connections are solid. If you work with a multimeter a lot, you know that if you put your leads onto something and you don't have an exact connection, or if you wiggle them a little bit, sometimes you see voltage changes. I think having a consistent connection is important. Again, the tool is a little bit pricey, but I figure I'll always have it, and I can lend it to my buddies and other folks who need to use it too.